Right, hi there YouTube. So, quick video. I had a request from a comment on one of my videos from Mark Synth. I think I've got his name right. So shout out to Mark, thanks for watching one of the videos and commenting. He just asked if I could go through the cable routing for all my gear. So I like to oblige, I like to share my knowledge. So I was going to quickly go through that. So before I do that, I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody who's actually watched and subscribed to me recently. I sort of started my YouTube channel earlier this year and it's building up quite nicely, so thank you. Basically everyone's been really nice. There seems to be a nice community of people out there on this electronic music scene. So far not had any idiots on there, which is a first for comments on YouTube. So big love to everybody who's liked and commented and shared. Keep spreading the word and I'll keep the videos coming. And if anybody's got any suggestions for anything they want me to cover in future videos, then comment on any of my videos and I'll see what I can sort out for you. Right, so let's get on with how all of this lot is all connected together with cable routing. Because I think, I've said this before, but I think I've finally kind of got my setup complete. At the moment, I don't feel the need to add anything else. So it's going to stay like this for a while, and I've run out of money as well, so I can't buy anything else at the moment. But everybody go and buy all my songs and my albums and stuff, and then I'll buy more gear and do more tutorials. So there we go. Right, so let's start with the MX1, because that's kind of like the central hub. I've got it just on the setup mode at the moment, so you can see I have it in mix mode. Okay, I do it like this so I can use it with or without the computer. So I can just come in here and just do a purely hardware jam for a bit, or I can do it with the computer without having to change the settings too much. I can never remember how all my cables go together, which is why I write everything down in my trusty notebook. So let's just go with... So obviously I've got the audio out, okay, so just dealing with audio without kind of stating the obvious. I've got the audio out from the MX1, which is actually going through an old CD player hi-fi unit, which I'm basically using as an amplifier, which you can't really see, but it's down there. This was my mum and dad's that they bought about 20 odd years ago, but it sounds pretty good actually. So the audio is going from the MX1 to the auxiliary input in there, and then I'm just taking the sound out for the speakers into the Tannoy Reveal monitors, which are great studio monitors. They sound awesome. So that's just kind of the main audio output. I'll talk about the Chaos Pad in a second. So let's just go through all the MIDI connections, because that's how everything is synchronized together. So I've got MIDI out from the MX1. And that's just a standard 5-pin MIDI DIN cable, not a DIDI cable. What the hell's a DIDI cable? There we go, I've invented a new cable. A 5-pin MIDI cable, not a DIDI cable, right? So that's going from the MX1, sorry, into the Minilogue. All right, the Minilogue is, I randomly just set on channel 5, MIDI channel 5. I've then taken the MIDI out from the Minilogue, another 5-pin MIDI cable, and that's going to the MIDI in of the Electribe. That's just basically sending clock and stop and start information through, so when I press play, basically everything starts playing. So just going down my list of connections, because I've got it written all down here. Let's go over to the TR8 next. So for this, I've got, this is connected to the MX1 via its USB connection, which is going into USB 1 on here. So that's doing all the MIDI synchronization and so forth via USB, okay, between the TR8 and the MX1. I've then taken a MIDI out of the TR8, and that's going to the MIDI in of the TB-03, again just to synchronize that up, because everything kind of works together, sending all that MIDI clock information out. And that's basically it, because the audio as well for that is going into the MX1 via USB. Just going back to the Minilogue, I've got the standard, where is it? Somewhere, audio output, which you can't see, but it's down there. Okay, so I was taking the standard audio from that, and that is going into, if I remember rightly, at channel 2, just a standard audio cable going into channel 2 on the MX1. So for the TB3, I did have this originally set up powered via USB from the computer and using it as a second sound card, which I found I didn't really need, and it was confusing my computer at times. So I'm just powering it up from a USB cable from the plug in the wall, and then all I'm doing on here is I'm taking the audio output from here, and that's going into the audio input of channel 3 on the MX1. And I've got the TB-03 set on channel 6. It's just a random free channel, MIDI channel number I had for that. Right, what else have we got next? So that's covered all of that. Let's go over to the TB3. Same as the TR8, this is connected to the MX1 via USB, and actually that's getting its power from the MX1 as well, so I don't need to plug that into the wall socket, which is good because it saves me a plug socket because I have a lot of stuff to plug in. So again, USB and audio for this is going, audio and MIDI is going via USB between that and the MX1. Sorry, shouldn't press play there. The TB3 is going into USB socket 3. And then for synchronization purposes, I've got again a standard MIDI cable, 5-pin MIDI cable coming out. So that's MIDI out on the TB3, and that's going to MIDI in on the Volca bass, because the Volcas only have MIDI in, they don't have MIDI out. I've got the Volca bass set on channel 4, so I can route I can route MIDI through the TB3 on channel 4 into that. So I've got wherever possible on all the Aira gear, I think it all has MIDI through. I've just got the MIDI through enabled. That'll be in your user manual to do that. So that's just gonna, because that's really useful because it passes MIDI through without it affecting anything on there. So check that out. If you need let's say it should be in your user manual how to do the MIDI through. If not, I'll try and do another video on that at another stage. And then in terms of, so while we're on the Volca bass, I've got MIDI in there, taking the audio out, standard audio cable out, and that's going into the audio input of channel 4 on the MX1. And then I'm sending the sync clock out from the Volca bass, and that's, if I remember rightly, yeah, that's going to the sync in that one on the Minilogue. Again, so that's just sending clock information. So when everything starts, that's sending the clock information from there into the Minilogue, which actually I probably don't need to do now. I've got that MIDI'd up, but it covers it anyway. It's just another cable, and it's just using the audio sync thingy on there. The VT3 is pretty straightforward. I've just got a microphone input into here, and then USB going into the MX1 USB 4. So again, that's dealing with all the audio on there. I don't really deal with any MIDI on that at the moment. The System 1, same as the others, is getting all its MIDI information and audio over USB into USB 2 on the MX1. And then in terms of MIDI connections, let me think, I remember how I would do this. I'm taking a standard 5-pin MIDI out from the System 1, and that is going to the MIDI in on the Volca keys down here. Again, two purposes. It's going to synchronize up the Volca keys, because when everything plays, this sends MIDI clock information through it, and I've also got that set up for MIDI to pass through. So when I'm sending MIDI into that MIDI connection from Ableton Live, this is set up on channel 15. It will pass MIDI stuff through here on channel 15 to there, so I can sequence all of that from Ableton Live. Again, standard audio cable output go from here. That's going into channel 5 and 6 on the MX1. And then I'm taking the sync out of here to the sync in on the Electribe. Again, that's not necessarily needed now because I've recently put the MIDI connection from the Minilogue into there, purely so that will start it via MIDI. The audio sync won't start this playing. I wanted this to start playing when I press play on everything. That will synchronize it up, but you have to manually press play and stop, which is, again, sometimes that's quite useful to do that. So that's another way of doing it. And then over here we've got the Roland drum pads. So what I've done on these, because I trigger, as well as the internal sounds on the pads, I do play some MIDI sounds that are within Ableton Live, so I need to be able to send MIDI from here via stuff into Ableton. So I've got the, again, standard MIDI out, which is this one here, and that's going to MIDI in on the System 1. So again, when I hit that, that's going to send a MIDI signal, whatever you want to call it, into the System 1. It's going to pass through the System 1 and it will be received into Ableton Live. So that's MIDI out from there to MIDI in on there. And then for audio, I've got, I think the way I was doing this, because I've run out of inputs on the MX1, so I've taken the audio output from the SPDS, the drum pads, and that's going to the audio input on the TR8, so I can use that as another mixer on the external in on there. And then obviously we've got push down here, that's just connected directly to the laptop via USB. So the only things I've got on USB at the moment is I've got a webcam, which is on this one, which is used for recording video sometimes. And then I'm just going direct in. I've got the MX1 is going direct in, because my MX1 is my sound card. And then I've got push going direct in, trying to avoid trying to avoid USB hubs wherever possible, because they're a pain in the neck. And that seems to work, so I can use that with all this setup with or without the computer. So if I've got the computer on, all I've got to do is press play on push. Okay, and that's a load of random stuff playing at the same time. But if I just play it again, you can sort of see everything starts playing. Okay, and everything's, so that's basically literally everything plays. So you've got to make sure you've got the settings on that you want. And then if I've not got the computer, for some reason, I think the way my settings are set up, I need to press, I think the TR8 is kind of like the master clock. So if I press play on that, again, everything starts playing, but there's no computer on there. Right, so that one was for Mark. I hope that makes some sort of sense, and you can see how everything works and goes together. You've got to, there might be a few settings you might need to play about with on the laptop on Ableton. If I just show you quickly without messing about too much, my MIDI settings are like this. So for the MX1, I basically have everything turned on for input and output. Let's try and get in a bit closer, like there. For some reason it's not liking that output, but there you go, they're all my inputs and outputs on the MIDI. And then on the audio, I need to make sure these are on, which I'll do now. They're the inputs and outputs I have selected. Let's just do that one as well. I do generally use all of these. If you're not using them all, then I would recommend not turning them all on, because it can save you some CPU on your computer if you're not using all the inputs. But basically, I'm using everything. Oh yes, the Chaos Pad. So for the Chaos Pad, this is just to mash up some of the sounds a little bit, put a bit of reverb on everything. So I wanted this basically to be able to affect the whole mix. So all I've done is, because obviously my MX1 is my main mixer. I've got I'm just taking the auxiliary send and return. So I've got the output, the send, which is those going to the input on here, and then the output on here is going back to the return on the MX1. And then at the moment on my auxiliary settings, I think I've got everything. Yeah, I've got basically everything set to 100. Okay, on every single output. So that's sending everything. So that's all passing through there. So unless I touch the pad, nothing happens. If I touch that, it affects the whole audio, so I can do some glitchy effects and filter everything out, and that's the reason I've got that. Okay, I hope that's of some use to you. If you've got any questions, as always, stick them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.